Hello, my people. Welcome to the Empower Series podcast. My name is Clifton Johnson. For those of you who are new, I want to say hello to my viewers in the United States and around the world. You are at the right place at the right time. There are no accidents. So we at the Empower Series always want to make sure that we're delivering hope, to make sure that you know that you can achieve the things that you envision. We want to give you inspiration to act, take that consistent, disciplined action to make things happen. We're going to educate you, and we're more importantly going to connect you to resources. I am so excited about our guest today. Our guest today is Dustin Phillips. He's the Chief Operating Officer of Opportunity Resource Services. It's a Dallas County-based organization. He's the co-founder of the organization that was founded in 2010. His background resonates with many of the individuals that they serve. He grew up in a low-income family and was the first in his family, like many of us, to earn a bachelor's degree. Prior to co-founding the organization, he worked in youth development in various programs for many years. And this experience led him to focus on addressing the generational poverty that is faced, not only in Texas, but is faced all over the country. And through his higher education programs that he's going to elaborate on, he's going to talk about how he's eradicating that. But prior to him joining this organization, he's also a city council member at the in Bent Brook, Texas. He enjoys many different things with his families. We were just talking about his kids and the college experience. We're going to talk about that some today. But get your pens and paper ready, because we're going to have a great conversation about the value of higher education, how to get it if there's a challenge or barriers to that, and really, is it really worth it? Given the changes that are happening politically, as well as the cost of college, what's the pathway to getting a higher education? Is it more than just academic? Is there some non-traditional ways? And all of that being said, Dustin, I want to thank you for your time, man. We can never get this back, but I believe that your investment in time to the Empower Series community is going to give dividends that's going to last forever.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. Truly.
Oh, man, most def. So we were talking about your organization earlier. What I want to do is find out a little bit more about your organization, and then talk about what are the things that you see in this landscape that is really makes getting the education more valuable and accessible to many people, not just people who are poor, but also, I would say, students and adults, as well as people who have some criminal backgrounds.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah, thank you. I think first I want to say Opportunity Resource Services is a nonprofit. And what I like to help people understand is that a nonprofit doesn't mean that we don't make any money at all. It just means that we don't use the money in the same way as a for-profit business. And so
You need to say that again, because I want to make sure, because people have a misunderstanding.
Oh,
When you
yeah.
hear the word nonprofit, it's like, oh yeah, you don't need to make a profit. No, that's not true.
No. We're a business. It's just
Yeah.
a business like McDonald's or anybody else. We just use the money differently. All of the money goes back into the mission in
Mhm.
trying to, in our case, fight poverty, disrupt generational poverty. But every nonprofit has to have revenue sources, has to have income. And so for us, we are primarily focused on what are called TRIO programs.
Mhm.
We have 9 of these programs that we leverage throughout, well, I say the Metroplex, but really North Texas. And so we're working with youth in various schools, high schools. We have summer programs. We have the Educational Opportunity Centers, which are focused on adults. And our EOC programs, Educational Opportunity Centers, these are the programs that also go into some of the jails, prisons, and work with those that are incarcerated or formerly incarcerated, working with the thread that binds all of our programs and all of our clients is that they were like me. They come from a low-income background. They were probably the first in their family to go on and earn a bachelor's degree. Many of them were the first in their families to go to get any kind of education post high school.
Mhm.
Many are very, very low income. And one of the things that we know with generational poverty is that if you were born in generational poverty, you are much more likely to stay in generational poverty and pass that on to the next generation.
Mhm.
And so exiting poverty is very challenging, but we know that the surest path or the most likely path is not just through hard work, but also through education. Education pays. And that is the best way, the surest way to fight poverty.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you not only for being on this podcast, but I know that one of your coworkers uh, did a program for the Empower series.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Hannah Sutton. Yeah.
yeah, Education Opportunity Center is focused on adults, but like you said, you have a program for students as well.
Yeah, youth, and they're in right now. We're focused in Lancaster. We're at the high
Mhm.
school there in Lancaster. Our EOC programs are really great because they can serve the entire county. So they serve Dallas County, we serve Tarrant County, Johnson County,
Mhm.
with those programs, and then our youth programs really are very specific to a campus. And so we have campuses all over the Metroplex where we have different programs. But
Okay.
yeah, and our youth programs, they're called Upward Bound Math and Science.
Mhm.
Again, all of this is under this TRIO, federal programs called
Yeah.
TRIO. And I don't want to give you too much history on that, but that's where our funding sources are. And so, we're targeting students as young as 13, 14, who are first in the family,
Mhm.
probably from a low income background, giving them the supports they need to become college ready. And college, I'm using the word college. It's very broad, and I
Right.
know we're going to get into
Yeah,
that, and I'm glad we will. But the goal is to get them ready to succeed post high school. Maybe that's the better way to say it.
Yeah, because education and learning is continuous, right?
Absolutely.
Whether
Yeah.
it's the
Yeah.
world is our library, but the information that you're referring to, the National Trail Program and all of the other resources
Yeah.
that you have that we're not going to have time to talk about is going to be available underneath the video on our
Great.
YouTube channel. So
Yes.
definitely, we want to get you connected. That's part of our getting you connected to the resources around you.
Fantastic. Yeah.
You talked about eradicating disrupting generational poverty. So there's a lot of different paths to that,
Yes,
right?
for sure.
And the path that we're going to focus on now is through education, whether it's traditional education or some of the non-traditional education
Love it.
pathways. But we want to talk about why is education so important?
Mm,
What are the statistics around it? In this political environment that we're in today, what are some of the new hindrances? But there's always been political hindrances when it comes to educating people, right? And giving
yeah.
people equitable access to the opportunities. But I do want to mention some statistics before we get into the details. You talked about families who are in the poverty level, getting out of that is difficult.
Yeah.
One way is education. Well, statistics do show that people with a higher level of education, traditional education, typically earn more money.
Mhm.
And so the statistics I have is that when you look at the weekly earnings, and this is based on 2023 data, if you have a bachelor's degree, your weekly earnings is close to $1,500.
Yep.
If you have an associate's degree, it's just under 1,000. If you have a high school diploma, it's right at around $800 or $900. But if you have less than a high school degree, this is average now. Your weekly income is 685. So if you measure success or the ability to get out of poverty as how much income you're able to earn, the value that you're adding to the marketplace to get compensated for it, the traditional path of education does quote unquote increase your odds of earning more money. Now, there's some exceptions to that,
Sure.
right? But for the masses and for
Yeah.
mass society, an educated population usually has more opportunities to earn,
Absolutely.
right?
Yep.
So what are some of the programs that you have that you are passionate about that you feel like the Empower Series community needs to know?
Ooh, that's a great question. Can I add one comment to
Sure,
that
yeah, yeah.
scale? So if you think about it, the pay goes up with more education, or
Mhm.
let's say degrees, right? You've earned these degrees, and it goes up. The inverse happens with unemployment, and I think that that's one thing I wanted
We did talk
to
about that.
point that out is that because that's so important. Right now, we've been so fortunate the last few years in our economy where it's just been jobs, jobs, jobs everywhere. If you wanted a job, you could go get a job somewhere.
Mhm.
But it has not always been that way. I mean, if you remember the Great Recession, it was almost impossible to find a job, and the folks who kept their jobs and retained their jobs, guess what? Had more education, they had more degrees,
Yeah.
and so it's an inverted curve for unemployment. It goes down with the more education that you have and the more degrees that you earn, and I think that that's so important right now, in particular, to think about because of AI
Mhm.
and its disruptive influences that is going to take place in the marketplace. I mean, there was a time where all we talked to our students about, our youth or even adults who were looking for what type of degree to get in college: computers, software engineering, programming. Right? I mean, it was sacrosanct: jobs,
Yeah.
jobs, jobs.
STEM.
That is changing
Mhm.
rapidly, and so I would not encourage folks to go out and become software engineers right now. I would kind of let things kind of flush out a little bit
Right.
with AI and see how that goes. But in terms of programs, that we talk to our clients, so we call them clients, but they're our people. All right, they're our folks. What we encourage them to look at are trending careers that have staying power, that pay very, very well, that don't take a lot of energy to get. And the reason I focus on energy is because one of the things that I know is true about our clients, about our people, they can't just go to college full time. We have single mothers who are working jobs. We have single dads. I should just say single parents.
Yeah,
but
right.
we have kids who are graduating high school that need to help mom and dad pay for the bills, and so they're having to work while they go to school. So it's not that they can just go headlong into getting a degree. They have to balance real life.
Yeah.
And so it's a question of energy. How much time and energy do you have and can you put towards getting a degree that's going to pay the bills, that's going to, again, disrupt this cycle of poverty in your life? So we're looking at it right now, okay? And again, everything is cyclical, but right now, the trades are hot and they remain hot and they're going to remain hot for a while. Becoming an electrician, becoming a plumber. When you talk about industrial maintenance, and that's not something that maybe many have heard of, that is killer right now. Industrial maintenance is a great gig. Robotics maintenance is a great gig. These are 2-year degrees that you can go and earn, and you can make starting upwards of $65,000 a year.
Yeah.
And then you add more and more certificates, more and more training. As you said, education is ongoing. It doesn't stop with the degree. You keep adding, but the more you add, the more valuable you become, the more skilled, which is another thing I'm glad you mentioned.
Yeah.
Just having a degree doesn't mean you're skilled. It doesn't mean you can do anything. And I've hired plenty of people that have had degrees that I was now training them on how to do the actual job because they didn't learn how to do it in school. So and I know we're going to talk about this, there's a major gulf between 21st century skills that are needed in the job, in the jobs that are available, and what some academic programs are still doing.
Yeah.
And that's a problem that I can't solve. I don't know if you can solve it, but someone's going to have to solve because we've got to close that gap to make the degrees that people are paying for more valuable to employers. But I think that focusing in right now on things that are hot, where there is in demand for those jobs, it doesn't take a lot of energy and time, and particularly money, to get the skills and the degree and the certificate that you need in order to do those jobs. That's what we tend to push our students to. And for our clients that are, into medicine, not everyone's into medicine. Lord knows I'm not. Nursing, 2-year degree, community college, and you can come out making $75,000 a year. Traveling nurses, I don't know if you're familiar with that, but they make 6 figures. So there's lots of opportunity in the world of an associate's degree and certificates that I would push people to start looking at very seriously.
Okay, well, I like that. I wanted to talk about some of the other statistics, not only weekly income and the unemployment being less for people with more certificates or degrees, career opportunities. There's just more choices.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Personal development and social mobility. One of the things that I think is the value of going to any type of formalized education is the ability to work on your critical thinking. Because, in school, regardless of your field, you're given assignments, you're given programs and you got to think through the right answer. But in the real world, you got the real world problems that you got to solve, right? And so your ability to exercise this muscle of critically thinking and solving problems really works if you can translate those skills that you've learned in any kind of formal school education to the real world.
Yeah.
And the biggest one is, how do I now make enough money, provide enough value in the marketplace to sustain my livelihood and advance?
Yeah.
And that's the problem to be solved. I find that a lot of times people miss that. It's not about just going to college, getting an education, then that doesn't equate to immediate money. You've got to solve for the problem and add real value in the marketplace today.
That's fair.
Right.
Yeah. I think that's a very good point.
So before we get into the challenges, I do want to talk about your program some more, because we're doing our program at the Empower Series, and we always talk about in May finding scholarships to go to college,
Yeah.
finding funding to provide this added level of education that will give you more opportunities, because not everybody has the resources for it. And one of the challenges is the cost of college.
Mm-hmm.
So in your programs, you provide a gateway for people who have either criminal backgrounds or adults or even students as well, to really give them a pathway of not only going to college, but also funding for college. Talk to me a little bit about what you educate these students on and these adults on, to not only go to college, but get the funding for it if they don't have money.
Yeah, that's great. So I think one thing that, just to preface, for the folks that we're working with, they were like me. Even their parents, they have zero resources at home
Right.
to know what to do. They don't know how to sign up for college. They don't know how to find scholarships. And my wife is a career educator, and so I love public schools. But our counselors, they're overrun.
Overwhelmed. Yeah.
They cannot do all the things that we need them to do at present. Now, maybe that's going to change in the future. So a lot of these students are kind of left to their own devices, trying to figure this out. And so one of the things that our program does is tries to fill that gap, right?
Gotcha.
Try to be that bridge to the information, to the resources that they need. And that includes talking about your, tried and true financial aid that's offered through the FAFSA, right? Federal student aid, which has reduced cost loans, grants, things of that nature.
Right.
The application has gotten a lot easier over the years, but it is still complicated, especially if you have a complicated background. Hence, those that have gotten wrapped up in the criminal justice system. Sometimes they don't even qualify anymore for those funds. So what do they do, right? And so we're going to guide them to the right resources. There's great organizations out there that are sponsoring individuals with scholarships to take on career friendly. That's another thing we like to talk to folks about: career friendly jobs with, if you have a troubled background.
Check,
yeah, that's exactly right. And so, and there's great jobs, there's great opportunities for folks out there still. And so there's no reason for anyone to be despondent or hopeless, but sometimes you need help. You need a partner to come in and say, let's help you connect all those dots. And so that's what we do for individuals that are affected by the criminal justice system. For adults who, maybe they just want to make a change. Maybe they're looking for something different. They want to do something new. They're maybe from a low income background first in their family. They don't know what to do either. A single mom whose kiddo is finally getting old enough to where she can go back to school, wants to do something. That's, again, we're going to bridge. We're going to help them figure that out. What career are you looking for? Where, I really do appreciate what you said about the critical thinking piece about college, because we do tend to focus just on nuts and bolts, right?
Yeah.
Like, how do you get that degree? How do you make that money? How do you bring in that paycheck? And that's true. That's necessary. But what really gives you the staying power in your career and to really grow long term in your career and make even more money is the ability to think and the ability to process through problems and to work with people. And I think that's another thing that you get in a formal education setting, is you learn how to work with people in dynamic, difficult situations. Because you can't just row the boat alone. You have to row it with other people, and learning how to do that in a positive way is part of all of this dynamic, all of this process. But scholarships. So let's come back to scholarships. So scholarships are challenging for us, excuse me, because, again, it's about time and energy. A lot of people don't have the time nor the energy to really put into going after scholarship money, but you have to do it.
And the rewards are there.
Yeah, they're huge.
You look at trying to get a job to make money versus the effort of getting a scholarship.
Yes.
It does seem like a lottery sometimes, but if you put forth the work, there's money out there that's not getting access.
Huge. And there's so much money, millions, probably billions. I haven't looked at it in a minute, but lots of money left on the table every year because no one filled out the application. And I just been going through that with my son. We were talking about this earlier, 16, and I need to have him connect with your son who did it. But it's like pulling hair sometimes, pulling teeth. You just can't get them to do it. And it's hard because there's not an immediate reward. You send out, you do the work, you send this out. You don't even know if you're going to get that money back. You don't know if it'll be there, but you're guaranteed not to get it if you don't do it.
Exactly.
And so that's what we encourage our folks to do is, one, own it. You got to own it. You got to do it. It's got to be part of the ethos. It's got to be part of the culture. Got to be part of the process. Two, be smart about it. Don't just fill out any application.
Mhm.
Right? You've got to do the research. Do I really qualify for this? If it's a scholarship for left-handed individuals only and you're not left-handed, don't spend the time doing it, right? But you would be surprised at how many people they just, they think it's volume, and there is a volume component to it, but it's about being smart, and it's about leveraging your time well, and it's about filling out the kinds of applications that you have the best chance of actually winning. And with our programs, we connect them to the resources where they can help narrow those things down. We're going to sit down with them, as I think I'm sure you did with your son, and help them learn how to write for those things, because there is an art to the writing process for those things. And unfortunately, ChatGPT has come along, and I don't know if it's making it better or easier, but it can sure speed up the process. But if you're listening to me, please take the time to tailor everything that you do with AI, because it can really get you messed up.
And I'll tell you that it's creating atrophy mentally.
Oh,
Just
yes.
like the calculator helped us figure out how to calculate
Such a great
complex
point.
calculations.
Absolutely.
AI, if you start relying on it, then you're not using your critical thinking and your muscle.
That's right.
And so, but you brought up a point I wanted to bring up. So resources are critically important for your organization. There's a lot of people who are going to be watching this who didn't know about you. Or
Yeah,
they still
sure.
don't know. How do they get in touch with your organization? And you service the Dallas broader counties. But what about people who are in different states? This TRIO program is a federal program.
That's right.
So they can go to the education website, ed.gov or whatever, and type this in and find programs like yours in all of their different
That's right.
communities.
That's right. I'm so glad you brought this up. So TRIO's a national. It's a national program, if you will. We have programs all over the nation. I say we, I just mean like those of us in the TRIO world,
Yes.
right? And so if you live in California, New York, where and everywhere in between, there's probably a TRIO program somewhere close to you. And some of them are regional. Some of them are, if in like our metro area, we have dozens of them. But you can Google it. You could go onto the EDU website. The best place to start would be at your local community college or university. They tend to be housed. We're kind of an odd organization to have this many TRIO programs. Most of these programs go to universities and community colleges. That's just tends to be who writes for them. We set out and did this as a nonprofit, and so we're a little different. But they're everywhere, and they can be tremendously helpful. In fact, if you're in school now, like if you're at a community college or university, there may be a TRIO program that is designed just for you being in college that can give you a ton of free resources. So you should absolutely go check it out.
So you make a good point. You make a good point that starting with your community colleges, right, and looking for resources. One of the things that I tell people a lot of times is that education is critically important, and so you need to pursue pathways of getting advanced education. But relationships are the key, right? Education is not enough, because at the end of the day, you can know a lot of stuff and don't get along with people. It's not going to translate to an advanced degree, right? So definitely, resources are going to be underneath the video. Start with your community colleges. For your organization itself, how do people get in touch with you if they want to contact your organization after this podcast?
Oh, that'd be fantastic. The easiest is just to go to our website, collegeyall.com, and they can pick up an application online, and we'll take it from there.
It's called College what?
College Y'all, like Texas Y'all, y'all, yeah, collegeyall.com. And or we're on social media as well. You can follow us on, I think, any platform we've kind of post to. But the easiest would go to the website, give us a call, shoot us a text from the website, and we'll pick it up from there. And if someone's out there looking for one of these programs, maybe there's a parent who has a teenager, you can go to your local high school as well. If you send us an email or contact us, we'll help you find a program. We're more than happy to do that.
Okay, and like I said, the links are going to be underneath the video.
Yeah, that's great.
The other thing people can do is email thrive@empowerseries.com.
Oh, yeah.
I'll get them connected to you.
Absolutely. We want to help everybody we can.
We want to be a connector agent. So one of the things we talk about, some of the challenges, right? So not only is not knowing how to apply or how to get enrolled or apply for scholarships is a hindrance. The cost is a hindrance. Is a big cost. So I want to share some other statistics with you. So tuition cost and student loan debt, right? 2023-24, the fee for a 4-year private university was almost $42,000,
Yeah.
and the average student loan balance was almost $38,000. So we have to look at different ways of addressing this. Some of the other challenges is you do have underemployment. So you have these high skilled individuals that are underemployed, right? Because
Yeah.
the marketplace is out there, and it's just the market's not really paying, or there's not enough jobs for certain careers. Alternatives to college, we'll talk about that, and we talked about sheepskin. If the sheepskin effect, it's people who assume that because you have a degree, you have a level of competency,
Yeah.
but in reality, you really don't. And so we want to talk about other pathways to being educated, and some of the other challenges that your organization is dealing with, like the political environment can get in
Mhm.
the way, right?
Absolutely.
So how has the political environment impacted you in your ability to help or even get funding for some of your programs, if it has at all?
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of at DEFCON 1, if you will, right now. The
Mhm.
latest White House budget that was released actually completely defunds our programs and all the programs like ours. Defunds,
Defunded like all of
defunds,
them.
gone everything. It defunds most domestic programming. Now, that's just that never actually happens. It's just a shot across the bow. But it's a scary time.
It's a pretty big bark.
Yeah, it's a scary time, and especially especially for folks who are like me, who want to work hard. They want to contribute to the
Mhm.
economy. They want to pay their taxes. They want to do the right things. And I think you brought up other good points about just how frustrated young people are. They're doing what everyone has told them they're supposed to do, and yet here they are graduating with debt, and they can't get a job, or the job doesn't pay what they had been told it was going to
Yeah.
pay. And so everyone's just really frustrated and scared. And what we want to see from a political standpoint, of course, is that our programs don't get defunded, and that in fact we have maybe even the rules of the road that we have to follow, our regulations get modified so that we can meet the 21st century need of our clients. And I think if anything, that's what needs to happen is all of our federal programs that do these types of work, they need to be retrofitted for an evolving economy and for the
Mhm.
future.
Mhm.
And so what we're doing is we're advocating for our programs. We're calling our Congress folks and saying, hey, don't leave us behind. Keep us in the budget because these programs are needed, particularly for individuals from lower income backgrounds, first in the family backgrounds. They need these types of supports, particularly at a time when you're underfunding public schools and other things. So it's just like this. It's just we've hit this kind of crescendo right now, and we're all. It feels like America's trying to figure itself out right now
Mhm.
with
Mhm.
all of this stuff. And it brings me to the point that you made about how expensive college is and the alternatives. And I don't want to paint myself as cynical, but Harvard has come to mind a couple,
Yeah.
or any of these prestigious schools, but there's certainly for some of these schools, they're certainly keeping costs high for a reason because they can,
Yeah.
and they can get away with it, and so it drives demand. If you only got so many places for people to come, and so it
Mhm.
makes it more valuable when you could expand. Your class base, expand the freshman class base, expand the opportunities, and that would bring the cost down.
Mhm.
So there's lots of problems, and some of them are institutional. Some of them they're created by the institutions themselves.
Yeah.
Some of them are political. Just this kind of war on higher education that's going on right now, which I don't know why, but it's there, and it's beyond my pay grade, and
Yeah.
I'm not sure how to fix it,
Yeah.
except to say if you value education as a just as a community member, call your Congress person and
Mhm.
tell them to support higher education and support your local education, support public education because it is all under attack right now. It is
Yeah.
all under great threat, and that's the only way we're going to be able to fix some of that is just to mobilize and to let our voices be heard. And I know that there's probably a callousness of like, well, does that actually work? And I
Mhm.
will say that in interactions with our representatives that I have had, they very much listen to their local constituent base. Having run for office, you need people to vote for you,
Yeah.
so you want to appease them, right? You want to listen to them and make sure that they're heard, and also that you're giving them what they're looking for. And so, yeah, I think they actually listen. So the
Mhm.
more we can mobilize in positive ways, I think is a good thing. In terms of alternative options for education, I think
Yeah.
that is an interesting subject for me. That's we were talking beforehand that
Mhm.
I've been talking to my son about this, and I definitely encourage people to explore community college as a first step because it's so much cheaper. I mean, it
The
just
cost per
the
credit hour
cost
is
is
much less than a 4-year college or even
it's
Ivy League
yeah,
schools.
it's
Yeah.
wild, and we were talking also about dual credit when you're in high school,
Mhm.
over AP courses, any ways that you can get free credits, take those. Any ways that you can get credits on a lower cost basis, take those opportunities. The downside to that, and you already mentioned, is relationships.
Mhm.
By not going to a university and having that experience on campus, or having that experience in the dorm room, having that experience in the classroom, you get the experience of classroom at community college, but it's just the
It's
other
different.
experiences
Yeah.
at a university, like that is such a rich,
Broader, diverse.
yes,
Yeah.
environment,
Yeah.
and there is a downside to not having that. But if you can go for 2 years instead of 4, you can kind of balance the scales, save a
Yeah.
lot of money, still get those relationships, still get that experience, still get that advanced degree, and come out, I think, ahead in a lot of ways. What you don't want to do is be saddled with, 60, 70, 80, $100,000 of student loan debt to go and compete for a job that pays $40,000 a year. That is not sustainable. You want to, some student loan debt is okay. It's manageable. Just like a car payment is manageable,
Yeah.
but it's all a scale. It's all a weight of what are you going to do, and what's the job market like,
Right.
and what are you willing to sacrifice to have this piece of paper. I don't know that it doesn't feel as valuable as it used to feel. That's for sure.
And it's not probably practicing critical thinking, right?
Right.
So,
Yes.
so I do
Yeah.
want to make a couple of points. Number one, you talked about making the decision about what you're going to get a degree in, right?
Mm.
And what's the likelihood of the pay afterwards? What's interesting is that, man, I'm an advocate that it takes all of us to make this work.
Mm.
Different levels of jobs, and so one person said we really don't get paid by the hour. We get paid by the value that we contribute to the marketplace.
Fair.
And so there are people who have certain professions, whether they're doctors, attorneys, or specialized fields, that get a tremendous amount of money for their expertise.
Hmm.
And then there are people who are more on the front lines, providing services that are just as valuable, but it's not valued in the marketplace as much as some of
Hmm.
the other careers. But those jobs are just as important because we're all in this together.
Absolutely.
And so I would tell people that what's important about whatever level you're at is that you practice sound money management principles
Mm.
and not living above your means. And
Absolutely.
that might mean that you're making choices that you don't really like to make about your living environment and what you can buy discretionally.
Yep.
But if you are in the process of always learning, always growing, and managing what you have, that's the best way. Because I know people who make a lot of money and they spend it all.
Uh-huh. Paycheck to paycheck.
And their experience, they might be comfortable, but
Yeah.
their emotional experience of life is not as rewarding as someone who doesn't make as much,
Yeah.
but they're practicing more, um, you know, stewardship
Absolutely.
over their resources, right?
So wise. Oh my
And
goodness.
so
Yes.
all of that is all about knowledge, I believe,
Yeah.
right? And then the other thing we talked about is, you know, the value of education. There's some people that look at the challenge of cost and they say that education is a scam
Hmm.
because you can go through an apprenticeship and learn a trade or a field and make much more money than possibly going to college sometimes. I am not an advocate that says all college is bad and everybody should be an entrepreneur
Yeah.
or anything that's like 100% this.
Yeah.
I'm not an advocate of. But I do believe that it's that educating yourself by whatever means necessary,
Hmm.
whether it's traditional academic, whether it's through apprenticeship, whether it's through community college or vocational, increasing your level of knowledge would help you think more effectively and more critically
Yeah.
and help you find fulfillment in what you do every day when you wake up and how much money you make.
Yeah. I
this
can't
is
disagree with that logic. I completely follow it, and I think I agree with it. I think, the only angle I would add to it is, I think it doesn't well, let me say it this way. I think it doesn't matter where you start, so long as the, the goal is not to stagnate.
yeah, you got to grow.
If you stagnate, it doesn't I mean, it doesn't matter what degree you have. I mean, you think about doctors and lawyers and these, principles of the world that are big ballers, and they're learning something new every day, and they have to stay on the top of their game. And so if you are an apprentice welder, right, and you earn that degree, or that you pass your apprenticeship, great, kudos, you did something amazing. But the question is, what's next, right? What new thing do you need to learn so that you can progress and move forward? I think about that in my own life. I mean, I do all kinds of certificate programs, on the side, just to trying to keep my mind sharp and keep me going. You can't stagnate. So I don't disagree with anything that you said. I think it's absolutely true. I tend to focus more on probably the more tangible degree, right? That translates into some of these more tried and true jobs. But I absolutely agree with your perspective and your point. I think it's the right way to think about it.
Well, what about this too? Because I've heard some people say that everybody should be an entrepreneur, or entrepreneurship is the only way to really acquire wealth. And I'm in disagreement with that, because we can't all be entrepreneurs. Because a true entrepreneur they have an idea that is big enough, that's too big for just them to do.
Yeah.
And they need employees.
Yeah.
So if everybody's an entrepreneur, then there's no employees, right?
Yeah.
And so I have when someone just says, "Oh, be an entrepreneur," that's the path. Not only is that not possible, in my opinion, but not everybody should be in business.
Yes.
So it takes a certain mindset.
I was just going to say,
and it's not for everybody.
Yes.
There's some people who are just as content going to work, doing a job description, and getting a paycheck, and knowing that that's not going to vary.
Yeah.
Where being an entrepreneur, you talk to some entrepreneurs, it's a different lifestyle.
Yeah, they don't know. I mean, I have to a certain extent, I'm an entrepreneur.
You're like that, right?
But my brother-in-law very much is an entrepreneur, and he has banger months where just income like crazy, and then months where there's nothing. And
it's like an EKG.
Yeah, absolutely. And not everyone has the emotional and mental fortitude for that lifestyle.
Exactly.
And you can make, I think, I forget the author's name. He talks about having a rich life, and he talks about having a rich life at no matter how much your income is. And it's this idea of living on a budget, living within your means, and spending money in the way that makes you feel fulfilled.
Yeah.
And I think for me, that has been very freeing, because it's like, I'm sure I want to be a multimillionaire. Who doesn't want to be a multimillionaire? But I don't know that I have the mental of fortitude to do what some of these guys do that are able to reach that level. And I think it's okay to say that.
Yeah.
I think it's okay to be self-aware and to be honest with yourself and say, you know what? I like hanging out with my kids and not working all the time. It's okay to say those things and be at peace with that. And I agree with you. I think you can be a rich person and not an entrepreneur, though I do love entrepreneurs and I admire them deeply.
Oh my God. Someone who has an idea, again, if they have an idea and it takes more than just them to achieve it.
Yeah, it's incredible.
And they collaborate with a number of different people, and they're able to not only provide a living for themselves, but they're able to provide a living for other people.
Yeah, it's remarkable.
They're providing so much value in the marketplace that it allows them to share that with other employees, and they can live sustainable financial lives.
Yeah.
Like, there's just something about that, right?
Amazing. Yeah.
But going back to the point of this, I feel that anybody who wants education, anybody that doesn't have the money for it or doesn't know how to, I want to let them know that there's hope.
Yes.
There are organizations like yours. There's federal dollars. Even though they're being limited, there are federal dollars available that people have paid into. They pay their taxes, right? And I believe that they're underutilized. Are your organizations and programs underutilized? Are you tapped out at your capacity right now?
So we are tapped out at our capacity. I mean, I say that we're going to serve as many people as we can serve. We're going to help as many people as we can help. It's one of the downsides to our programs with the federal funds is that we are capped at how many people we can serve, believe it or not. Even though we could serve quite a few more because of efficiencies that we have in our organization. Um, for whatever reason, we're capped. And so, and other programs are like that as well. It's very bizarre. However, I know for a fact there are a lot of programs that are exactly like ours that are definitely
Yeah,
underutilized.
yeah.
And there's a lot of capacity for more service. And certainly there's a lot of dollars, like we had talked about with scholarships, left on the table,
Mhm.
grant funds that are just left on the table because folks don't know about it. They don't know that there's free resources. They don't know that they would qualify.
Right.
They just don't. It's that old adage, you don't know what you don't know.
Mhm.
And you got to start making phone calls, making connections, building relationships
That's what I'm saying. It's
with the
key.
right people, and then you can suddenly get connected to an inflow of dollars.
So, is there a fee or cost for the people who are utilizing your
Oh,
services?
absolutely not. No, no,
Okay,
no.
so let's be clear about
Yeah,
that,
no,
right?
everything is free. Yeah, all of our services are free to all of our clients. So if someone reaches out to us and we serve them, help them with whatever they need assistance with, yeah, there's no costs ever.
And if they reach out to you and you're at capacity,
We will still,
you will do your best to help them by directing
yeah,
them to an organization that's not at capacity if
yeah. Well,
necessary, right?
or we're
Or
gonna
just
serve
help
them
them anyway,
anyways.
right?
Yeah, we're gonna do it anyways.
So create a problem for you, right?
Yeah,
So my intention is that we're creating problems for
I
you.
love that. No, and I would be grateful for it, frankly. Yeah, we're gonna do whatever we can to help as many people as we can. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So tell me this now. As we kind of get to this, if you have an opportunity now, you have the attention. What do you want people to know that they don't know that's going to help them take that next step to achieve their goals?
Well, we've touched on it, but I want to reiterate it. There is a lot of money available to individuals to pursue any kind of educational advancement that they want to have. You can do the things that you want to do and not go into debt. You do not have to stop listening to TikTok, stop watching the videos. You can go to school for whatever program. It could be as straightforward as like a welding certificate and welding program, or as complicated as becoming a nurse, an RN. Whatever it is you want to achieve, you can achieve it, and you can do it without going into tons and tons of debt. It is absolutely possible, and it will take time, and it will be hard, but it's worth every second of it, and it won't take as long as you think it'll take.
I like that because I would tell you that I'm in agreement with you. So number one, whatever you want is available for you.
Absolutely.
Whatever roadblocks that are in the way, there's a way of getting around them. If you don't have money, there's money available. Now you got to qualify that for that money. It's going to be hard, but I'll tell you that if you want an education, the way the system is set up, you can get a loan for almost anything,
That's right.
right? So there's I don't want to call it legalized racketeering, but at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
It's there's a way for you to get a loan to accomplish any type of education you want. Now, it may not make sense, right? So I'm going to be real with everybody. It doesn't make sense to get a loan for a career that doesn't really make a lot of money,
Correct.
but you can do that. And so I'm an advocate of whatever you want to do. It's going to be hard, but you can find the money to get it done
Yep.
and not go into debt. So either way, it's going to be hard. If you get the debt and you get a career that can't afford to pay it back, that's hard. But if you don't want to do that, it's going to be hard too because you got to find that money. The money's there, but it's not going to just knock on your door.
Can I add one thing to that
Sure.
that just kind of hit me? Is that I think some people the roadblock even before getting to how do I pay for this or how do I process this is, well, what do I want to do? And
Good point.
I think because we have experienced that with quite a few of our adult learners. They don't know what they want to do. They don't know what they're good at. They don't know, and they're maybe fearful of making a mistake because it's a lot of money. It's a big investment.
Yeah.
And so, what I would say to that, if that is someone that's listening is struggling with, well, what do I do? First of all, lean on your relationships. Find the people in your life who know you and let them talk to you so you can see yourself from other people's perspective. Hear the voices of other people. Let them tell you what you're good at, what you're not good at. And if you don't trust yourself, trust them.
Mhm.
And then that can help your brain to start framing what the next steps could look like. And then you can start tapping into resources about what types of careers are out there, where are we headed in the marketplace in terms of in-demand careers, and then you can start cobbling together a plan. And once you kind of know the direction you want to go, well, then you can really start running with running forward with getting the money and the funding that you need to pursue that.
So I like the fact that you said that because a lot of times people are just stuck with, I don't know.
Hmm.
I don't know what to do, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what I want to do. I don't know where to go. So if you're stuck like that, I would say contact Opportunity Resource
Yeah.
Services, right? Contact the
100%.
Empower Series, thrive at empowerseries.com. I mean, we are part of the solution.
Hmm.
Um, there's always for-profit organizations that will provide a level of service that is valuable for the community for people who are willing to pay for it.
Yep.
As a nonprofit, we provide just as valuable services, but we realize that not everybody can pay for it, and it may not be profitable for a for-profit company to provide those services. But we are providing those services, and we can only provide those services based on the generosity of people like you who are making donations,
Absolutely.
or the government who's providing grants,
That's absolutely
right?
true.
And so I also find it interesting that these politicians can make millions of dollars through donations of $5 and $10, but we struggle.
Yeah.
At least I struggle. I don't know if
It's
you struggle.
remarkable,
I
isn't
struggle.
it?
It's like,
Yeah.
wait. That's like literally throwing money away to a certain extent, right? Because you know your candidate's not going to win. But
Yeah.
if you donate to a nonprofit that's doing some great work like yours
Yep.
and mine, then you're guaranteed to know that those dollars are helping individuals.
That's exactly right.
Right. Yeah. So if someone want to make a donation to your organization, do you take donations or you only grants?
We do. It's on our website, of course, but we're just primarily funded through these grant programs.
Okay.
So we don't do we do a couple of fundraisers a year, but that we've been fortunate in that way. But I would echo what you said that if you're going to give $1, give it to something you believe in, give it to an organization that you believe in, not a throwaway situation.
and here at the Empower Series, we don't reinvent the wheel. All right. So all of our programs every year, we do on the third Saturday of every month, we do a program on either goal setting, entrepreneurship,
Fantastic.
credit management, scholarships for college. We do home purchase, estate planning, any of the gamut of conversations you would have with a financial advisor, we cover.
That's great.
And then we do podcasts as well. And what we do is we partner with community organizations like you, who we feel light needed to be shined upon you because not enough people know of you. And I know you're at capacity, but you need to have a bigger problem.
No, sorry.
You need to have people knocking at your door thinking, I want more.
That's okay.
More, right?
That's right.
And then, so not only can you help more people, but you can also direct them to other organizations that are underutilized, right? We're shining the light on you and what you do. So I want to commend you and appreciate you for what you do. I always say that there's always organizations that are doing things greater than, wherever they're at. And so you inspire me.
Oh,
you inspire me to do more and to create a greater impact.
Well, thank you. That's really generous. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me here today.
Well, hey, I want to thank you as well. Like I said before, I can never express my appreciation for you and your busy schedule, taking time away from your work, the other things you have to do today to really point to the community, the Empower Series community. But this, I believe, is going to give you dividends that's going to last forever.
That's great.
Like our collaboration is not just helping each other, but it's really helping millions of other lives that's going to watch this program and give them the hope, inspiration, education, and connect them to the resources to help them take that next step to achieve their goal.
Fantastic.
So I want to thank you as well. I want to thank you for sticking in with this. Definitely don't keep this a secret. Share it with other people. Watch this again because repetition is the mother of skill. We pretty much forget 70% of what we watch or workshop the next day, unless we take some kind of action. So I would encourage you to take notes and decide what action you're going to take. Getting in touch with Dustin, getting in touch with me. I'm going to one of the links underneath the video. Do something. Just don't sit on this. This is not the end. This is the beginning. If you want to find out more about the Empower Series, you can always go to our website, www.empowerseries.com. You can give us some feedback. There's a survey you can take. If you click on the top right-hand button, let us know how we're doing, what you would like us to give more information on. You can see what workshop is coming up next by clicking on the flyer and going to the registration page. And if you're so inclined, you want to make a donation to help us do what we do and make a greater impact, you can donate by hitting the donate button or text give or donate to 214-225-6337. That's 214-225-6337. You'll get a secure link and you can make a donation from that standpoint. But whatever you do, get what you're supposed to get from the Empower Series. Don't sit on it. Share it with somebody else. Let us know how we're impacting your life. And I want to thank you again and inspire you to stay inspired and thrive take that next step until we meet again. Be well.